How you doing, everybody? My name is Dr. Sami Baya. Please welcome back to my YouTube channel. The Narcissists' Four Greatest Fears. That is the title of this video. Narcissists, at their core, they fear anything that threatens their carefully constructed self-image of perfection, superiority, and invisibility. Remember, narcissists have fragile egos. Narcissists, they lack empathy. They're master manipulators. They need constant attention, constant validation, constant admiration. They use and discard others. They exaggerate their achievements. They only focus on their needs. They want to be on the limelight. Overall, narcissists' greatest fears revolve around anything that threatens their fragile sense of self-worth, control, and superiority. These fears drive the narcissist's defensive behaviors and contribute to their difficulties in forming genuine, fulfilling relationships with others. Narcissists, they often harbor deep-seated fears beneath their veneer of confidence and grandiosity. Narcissists often exhibit a facade of confidence and superiority, but beneath this veneer lies deep-seated fears and insecurities. Understanding these underlying fears can provide insight into the behaviors and motivations of narcissists. Now, although addressing these fears that narcissists have typically requires professional intervention and a willingness on the part of the narcissist to engage in introspection and personal growth. However, in this video, I'm going to give you some of the greatest fears that narcissists have, and this include number one, fear of emptiness. Narcissists often experience a profound sense of inner emptiness and dissatisfaction, which they attempt to fill through external validation and attention. Narcissists fear confronting this emptiness because it forces them to confront their own inner turmoil and lack of fulfillment. Again, narcissists fear aging and decline. They have that fear of aging and the fear of declining. Narcissists are often preoccupied with their physical appearance and youthfulness. They fear aging and decline because it threatens their sense of attractiveness, vitality, and superiority over others. Again, narcissists have this fear for rejection and abandonment. They dread being rejected or abandoned by those they consider important. This fear stems from their deep-seated insecurity and need for constant validation. Any indication that they are not admired, respected, or needed can trigger intense anxiety and defensive behaviors. The fear of rejection that narcissists have is that they crave admiration and validation from others. They fear rejection or criticism because it threatens their fragile self-esteem and self-image of perfection. Narcissists fear abandonment. Narcissists often form shallow relationships based on what others can provide for them. They fear being abandoned or replaced because it would mean losing a source of narcissistic supply. The other fear that narcissists have is the fear of failure and inferiority. Narcissists invest heavily in maintaining an image of success, competence, and superiority. They fear failure and being perceived as incompetent or inferior by others. This fear often drives them to engage in grandiose behaviors, exaggerate their achievements, and belittle others to maintain their sense of superiority. The fear of failure that narcissists have is because despite their outward arrogance, narcissists often fear failure. They invest heavily in maintaining an image of success and superiority, and failure undermines this image, leading to feelings of shame and worthlessness. Narcissists have the fear of inferiority because beneath their grandiose exterior, they often harbor feelings of inferiority and inadequacy. They fear being perceived as inferior or less competent than others. The other fear that narcissists have is the fear of losing control, the loss of control. They have a strong desire for control over people, over situations, and their environment. Narcissists fear losing this control because it threatens their ability to manipulate and influence others to meet their needs. Any perceived loss of control can lead to feelings of vulnerability and insecurity. Narcissists strive to control their environment and the people around them to maintain their sense of power and superiority. They fear losing control because it threatens their inflated sense of self-importance. The other fear that narcissists have is the fear of exposure of true self. They fear being exposed. Behind their facade of confidence and grandiosity, narcissists often harbor deep feelings of inadequacy and shame. They fear being exposed for who they truly are, that is flawed, vulnerable, and human. Any situation that threatens to unveil the narcissist's vulnerabilities or imperfections can provoke intense anxiety and defensiveness. Narcissists will go to great lengths to maintain their facade of perfection. They fear being exposed for who they truly are, that is flawed and insecure individuals, because it shatters their carefully constructed image. Again, narcissists fear being ignored or being irrelevant. They crave attention, admiration, and validation from others. They fear being ignored or deemed insignificant because it undermines their sense of self-importance and specialness. Being overlooked or dismissed can trigger feelings of worthlessness and insignificance. The other fear that narcissists have is the fear of intimacy and vulnerability. True intimacy requires vulnerability and emotional openness, qualities that narcissists struggle with. Narcissists fear genuine emotional connection because it requires them to let down their guard and expose their true selves. This fear often leads the narcissist to avoid or to sabotage intimate relationships to protect themselves from perceived emotional harm. Narcissists have difficulty acknowledging their own vulnerabilities and weaknesses. They fear being vulnerable because it contradicts their image of vulnerability and superiority. Again, genuine intimacy requires emotional openness and vulnerability, which narcissists find threatening. They fear intimacy because it exposes them to the risk of rejection and undermines their sense of control. Narcissists also fear being confronted with reality. Narcissists, they live in a distorted reality where they are the center of attention and everything revolves around their needs and desires. They fear being confronted with the truth that they are not as special or superior as they believe. Any challenge to their distorted perceptions can lead to denial, rage, or withdrawal. Now, the other fears that narcissists have is the fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, inadequacy, being exposed as a fraud, fear of losing control, fear of criticism, fear of failure, fear of being ignored, fear of intimacy, fear of vulnerability, fear of being ordinary, fear of being forgotten, fear of not being admired, fear of not being special, fear of being replaced, fear of not being in control, fear of not being superior, fear of being humiliated, fear of being unloved, fear of being alone, fear of losing power, of being betrayed, fear of being seen as weak, fear of being manipulated, fear of being second best, fear of being disliked, fear of not being respected, fear of being belittled, fear of being average, fear of being insignificant, fear of criticism from authority figures, fear of losing their facade or perfection, fear of facing their own flaws, fear of not being in the spotlight, fear of aging, fear of their own mortality, fear of being exposed as insecure, fear of being seen as selfish, fear of being seen as narcissistic, fear of being seen as needy, fear of not being in control of their image, fear of being dependent on others, fear of being controlled by others, fear of being seen as inferior, fear of losing their charm, fear of being criticized for their behavior, fear of not being able to manipulate others, fear of being seen as manipulative, fear of not being able to get what they want, fear of not being able to maintain their social status, fear of being seen as untrustworthy, fear of being seen as unreliable, fear of being seen as insincere, fear of losing their followers, fear of not being admired by others, fear of not being able to maintain their facade of superiority, fear of not being able to maintain their facade of success, fear of not being able to maintain their facade of happiness, fear of losing their sense of entitlement, fear of not being able to manipulate situations to their advantage, fear of not being able to manipulate people to their advantage, fear of not being able to maintain their image of invincibility, fear of not being able to maintain their image of perfection, fear of not being able to maintain their image of intelligence, fear of not being able to maintain their image of attractiveness, fear of not being able to maintain their image of wealth, of success, of popularity, of charisma, of dominance, of superiority, of infallibility, of control, of independence, of uniqueness, of being special, of being the center of attention, of being the best, of being the most important, of being the most powerful, of being the most successful, of being the most popular, of being the most attractive, of being the most desirable, of being the most loved, the most envied. Fear of not being able to maintain their image of not, or the image of being the most respected, most powerful, most popular person. Now, those are some of the fears that the narcissist has. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel if you've not done so. Subscribe. Thank you.